rose from Calvary's mountain. In the cross, be my glory ever, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river. Near the cross, a trembling soul, love and mercy found me. There the bright and morning star shed his beams around me. Near the cross, O Lamb of God, radiant scenes before me. Help me walk from day to day with its shadows o'er me. Near the cross I'll watch and pray, hoping, trusting ever, till I reach the golden strand, just beyond the river. In the cross, be my glory ever, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river.
Jeremy, you can go ahead and pull up the first verse. Been good to be here, and I partner with Marcus's heart there, and just it is again a summer of prayer, and just God. We're so dependent, and we continue to be that. It's good to be here this morning, Joel. Thank you for leading songs. There's a blessing when you hear resolve in God, and thank you. It's good to hear Jeff, and such a basic from God, the two greatest commandments: love God and love other people. And it asks something of us in that. So if I would title the message this morning, I'm not quite sure. I think I'll give you a title, but part of it would be eyes to see. Part of it is just trust. And part of it is steadfastness of God. But if I would title it this morning, it's just the story of God. So I think as we go through today, I hope we can just hear again God's story. All of us have story. We're in the middle of our story, and kind of interesting hearing Ashton interacting. Like, he interacts with a lot of story. We interact with a lot of story, but our story goes on, and God cares, but God's story continues. Psalm 143:8, this is in the NIV, but let the morning, each morning, how you start your day, how I start my day, just let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love. For I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. Same ESV, let me hear in the morning of your steadfast love. Steadfast. For in you I trust. Make me know the way I should go, for to you I lift up my soul. But there is a setting in the morning for each of us, a choice, a choosing to set, recognizing God's provision, and his love. That should be a foundation. Psalm 28:7. Amplified. The Lord is my strength and my impenetrable shield. My heart trusts in, relies on, and confidently leans on him, and I am helped. Therefore my heart greatly rejoices, and with my song. So each of us have a song. With my song, and I could hear that. I could hear that in Joel this morning with his song, and that I want that to be my song. With my song will I praise him. The Lord is my strength and my impenetrable shield. My heart trusts in. Is that your experience this morning? Are you confident in the Lord? Are you so confident in the Lord? Ephesians 1:17. Jamin, you want to read this one? Just read it loud.
Verse 17, for the whole thing.
Whole thing, yeah.
For I always pray to the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of glory, that he may grant you a spirit of wisdom and revelation, insight into mysteries and secrets in the deep and intimate knowledge of him, by having the eyes of your heart flooded with light, so that you can know and understand the hope to which he has called you, and how rich his glorious inheritance in the saints, his set apart ones. Excuse me. And so that you can know and understand what is the immeasurable and unlimited and surpassing greatness of his power in and for us who believe, as demonstrated in the working of his mighty strength.
That he may grant you, which would be us, a spirit of wisdom and revelation, of knowing the deep knowledge of our God, having the eyes of our hearts flooded with light, so we can know and understand the hope to which he has called us. And then in verse 19, so that you can know and understand, but having your eyes flooded with light. You can go to Exodus 34. Chris, you good to read it? Read aloud.
The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, the God, merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. Keeping steadfast love and thousands, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. But who will by no means clear his guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the children's children, to the third and fourth generation. Moses quickly bowed his head toward the earth and worshipped. And he said, if now I have found favor in your sight, O Lord, please let the Lord go in the midst of us, for it is a stiff-necked people. Pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for your inheritance.
Andrew preached last week on the fear of God, which is such a foundation for understanding and how we view God and how we relate to God. It is such a core part of that. There's not a question of if God shows up. It's in his name. It's steadfast love. That's who God is. It's a question of if we're there where God can. God always shows up for his people. It's a question if we're his people. Let that not be a question. God always shows up. Steadfast love. It's in the name of God. It is part of his very character. Steadfast. Want to go to a couple different stories and just kind of step into the story and just see what you see what they saw. And we have the privilege of knowing the whole story, so it's kind of a little different. If you want to go there, in in 2 Kings 5, So we have the story early in 2 Kings where Elijah and Elisha are walking together and chariots of fire come down and pick up Elijah. And Elisha recognizes it. What did Elisha say? What did he say? He said the chariots and charioteers of Israel. He recognized who it was. So Elisha lives with this reality. So just circumstances, what are your circumstances present? What do you see? So this is just stepping into a story. Elijah helped heal Naaman. Naaman was commander of the army of Aram, the Armenians. And it says in 2 Kings 6, when the king of Aram, this king liked Naaman because Naaman won battles. So it's very closely connected to Elisha already helping this king. But king of Aram was at war with Israel, and he would confer with his offers. And Elisha knew what the king was saying, and he would tell the king of Israel. Time and time again, Elisha warned the king so that he would be on the alert there. King of Aram became very upset over this. Like, who's the traitor? None of us. Elisha the prophet in Israel tells the king of Israel, even the words you speak in the privacy of your bedroom, go and find out where he is so I can send troops to seize him. When the report came, Elisha's at Dothan. So one night the king of Aram sent a great army with many chariots and horses to around the city. When the servant of the man of God got up early the next morning, went out, there were troops, horses, chariots everywhere. Oh, sir, what would we do now? The young man cried to Elisha. So if that's your circumstance, if you're there and we're living how we live presently, what all do you see and what all would you do? Who would you want to be in the story right here? Like, if with what we know right here, who would you choose to be in the story right here without knowing more of the story? The problem is we know the more of the story. But who would you choose to be? Like, who would you say has the best circumstance here?
King of Israel.
Want to be the king of Israel? Anybody else want to be anybody else? Who would want to be the servant of Elisha? That's the one you wouldn't want to be right now, because he's really scared. It looks like it would be very good to be with the army. It's just interesting how this is just a day, just one day there, and read on. Don't be afraid, Elisha told them, for there are more on our side than on theirs. Elisha prayed, O Lord, open his eyes. Elisha prayed 3 prayers here. God answered all 3 prayers. And like in some ways, none of the prayers were huge. And yet in other ways, they were significant. Elisha prayed, O Lord, open his eyes, let him see. The Lord opened the young man's eyes. When he looked up, he saw that the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire. As the Armenian army advanced toward him, Elisha prayed again. So the young man's eyes were opened. Elisha prayed, O Lord, please make them blind. So the Lord struck them with blindness as Elisha had asked. Then Elisha went out and told them, you've come the wrong way. This isn't the right city. Follow me and I'll take you to the man you're looking for. He led them to the city of Samaria. As soon as they entered Samaria, Elisha prayed, 3rd prayer, said, O Lord, now open their eyes, let them see. So the Lord opened their eyes, and they discovered that they were in the middle of Samaria. When the king of Israel saw them, he shouted to Elisha, my father, which is kind of interesting because he's the king, but as a very respectful term, it is, my father, should I kill them? Should I kill them? Of course not, Elisha replied. Do we kill prisoners of war? Give them food and drink and send them home to their master. So the king made a great feast for them and then sent them home to their master. After that, the Armenian raiders stayed away from the land of Israel. 3 prayers answered. The question was, whose eyes? There was one person in that story that had eyes that actually saw the whole story, and it was Elisha. And Elisha prayed. Did he destroy the enemy? Didn't destroy the enemy. He protected, like he did what he was asked to do, but he had eyes to see. Is your circumstance any different than Elisha's was? If there's things that are big, is it any different as far as the steadfast provision, like the greatness of God in our time? Is it any different? Is God different? I think the question sometimes is, do we have eyes? Do we have eyes to see the whole picture? We'll go to a different story. So early when Saul was made king, it says that very early they took account in, I think there was 300,000 men of Israel, 300,000 men of Israel, and there was about 30,000 men of Judah. And the reality that the Israelites were living in is that there was a couple swords in Israel. I think Jonathan and Saul had swords. They were living with the Philistines, like in their land. And they still had kind of autonomy, but like they were controlled and they were all in their space. And Saul was made king. Saul like did a few things early that kind of mobilized Israel. And then we find a story here. And 1 Samuel 13, 1-9. Saul was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 42 years. Out of the 300,000 men, or just earlier, 2 chapters earlier, they had counted the men. Out of the 300,000 men and the 30,000, Saul selected 3,000 special troops. He took 2,000 of the chosen men with him to Michmash, hill country of Bethel. The other 1,000 went with Saul's son Jonathan to Gibeah in the land of Benjamin. Soon after this, Jonathan attacked and defeated the garrison of Philistines at Gibeah. The news spread quickly among the Philistines. Saul blew the ram's horn throughout the land, saying, "Hebrews, hear this, rise up and revolt." All Israel heard the news that Saul had destroyed the Philistine garrison at Gibeah, and the Philistines now hated the Israelites more than ever. So the entire Israelite army was summoned to join Saul at Gilgal. Philistines mustered a mighty army of 3,000 chariots, 6,000 charioteers, and as many warriors as a grain of sand on the seashore. They camped at Michmash, east of Beth-Aven. The men of Israel saw what a tight spot they were in. Because they were hard-pressed by the enemy, they tried to hide in caves, thickets, rocks, holes, and cisterns. Some of them crossed the Jordan River and escaped into the land of Gad and Gilead. Meanwhile, Saul stayed at Gilgal, and his men were trembling with fear. So just hold on this verse here just for now. Saul waited there 7 days for Samuel, as Samuel had instructed him earlier, but Samuel still didn't come. Saul realized that his troops will rapidly slip away, so he demanded, "Bring me the burnt offering, peace offering." Saul sacrificed the burnt offering himself. How would you describe the might of the nation of Israel right here? Were they mighty? How would you describe what you see in that picture? Fearful? Hiding? How great was God? Anything you see in this picture? Saul sinned. He sacrificed when he shouldn't have. Like he tried to leverage God. Stuff was slipping away. Like, how does a great nation come from something like this, a picture like that? So if you're in this circumstance, who do you want to be? If you're in this circumstance, who would you choose to be? Like, who do you see as at an okay place in that picture? I probably would have chose to be a charioteer for the other army. That looks kind of good. They didn't have swords, like they were hunkered down. Would you have went home? Would you have been one of the men that went home? There's still people that in this picture that we're still looking at God. And we know that from the rest of the story. We can also jump over to David, not too far from this time. And when he came up there in Goliath in that story, and he said, why does a pagan defy our God? Like he knew who his God was and was able. If we go on into the last verse of the next chapter 13, or 39, the pass at Michmash had meanwhile been secured by continents of the Philistine army. But if you go, you see pictures of that, you're talking, it wasn't like hills over here. It probably was actually a little more like very steep parts of North Georgia. It was pretty steep. And one day Jonathan said to his armor bearer, come, let's go over to where the Philistines have their outpost. But Jonathan did not tell his father what he was doing, Saul. Meanwhile, Saul, and of the 3,000 men that were Israel, there was still 600 men gathered to fight. They were camped on the outskirts of Gibeah around the pomegranate tree of Migron. Among Saul's men was Abijah the priest. No one realized that Jonathan had left the Israelite camp to reach the Philistine outpost. Jonathan had to go down between two rocky cliffs that were called Bozez and Sina. The cliff on the north was in front of Michmash, and the one on the south was in front of Geba. Let's go across to the outpost of those pagans, Jonathan said to his armor bearer. Perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. That's what Jonathan saw. Jonathan saw that if the Lord was involved, there was nothing that could hinder the Lord. That's what Jonathan saw when he saw that setting. He can win a battle whether he has many warriors or only a few. Do what you think is best, the armor bearer. Pretty loyal armor bearer. What are things that we would know about an armor bearer? Usually they're carrying their own armor, and like here, somebody was carrying his own armor probably and Jonathan's. So it's probably a big dude, pretty loyal here, because I don't know if he had faith, if the armor bearer had faith in God or if he had faith in Jonathan. But right here they go. Do what you think is best, the armor bearer replied. I'm with you completely, whatever you decide. All right, then Jonathan told him, we will cross over, let them see us. If they say to us, stay where you are, or we'll kill you, then we will stop and not go up to them. How much courage did it take to make that decision in that moment for Jonathan? Depending what was said, he was going to go up the cliff. So was he trusting in his own fighting? Or in that moment, did he trust that the Lord was giving him direction. When the Philistines saw them coming, they shouted, "Look, the Hebrews are crawling out of their holes." Then the men from the outpost shouted to Jonathan, "Come up here and we'll teach you a lesson." "Come on, climb right behind me," Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "for the Lord will help us defeat them." And it sounded like it was fairly much a straight up climb. If you look at history, there's a very good chance that when they got to the top, that they fought Philistines one at a time, that there was actually a gentlemanly, like they didn't just kill them as they came up. There was actually kind of a battle engagement that happened. But this is a whole army. The whole of Israel is trembling. God is able. God is more than willing. God is waiting. They climbed up using both hands and feet, and the Philistines fell before Jonathan. His armor bearer killed those who came behind them. They killed some 20 men in all. Their bodies were scattered over about half an acre. Suddenly, panic broke out in the Philistine army, both in the camp and in the field, including even the outposts and raiding parties. And just then, an earthquake struck, and everyone was terrified. It goes on. Saul's lookout to Gibeah, Benjamin saw a strange sight. The vast army of Philistines began to melt away in every direction. Call the roll and find out who's missing, Saul ordered. When they checked, they found that Jonathan and his armor bearer were gone. Saul shouted to Abijah, "Bring the ephod here." But while Saul was talking to the priest, the confusion in the Philistine camp grew louder and louder. So Saul said to the priest, "Never mind, let's get going." But somebody had already got going. Saul and all his men rushed to the battle and found the Philistines killing each other. There was terrible confusion everywhere. Even the Hebrews who had previously gone over to the Philistine army revolted, joined in with Saul, Jonathan, and the rest of the Israelites. Likewise, the men of Israel who were hiding in the hill country of Ephraim joined the chase when they saw the Philistines running away. So the Lord saved Israel that day. But it's the Lord's story. It was the story of God. It was all about God's power. It was all about God's commitment to Israel. But Jonathan stood up and said, "The Lord is able, and we'll engage. We'll go here." And the circumstance looked too big. Everything about it looked too hard. And yet Jonathan and his armor bearer engaged, and like we know the story. Jonathan is a person I would like to meet. Somehow, like his humility and yet his courage. It's not the only time that he just engaged, and yet he didn't hold on to power. And I don't know what, like the story of Israel, like at the end of David's reign, Israel was the mightiest nation in the earth, like a generation. But it took men that declared and stood on the ability, the provision, the purpose, the power of God. There's a lot more stories. I might talk here about 7 more minutes here. A lot more stories. I want to jump into one, and I'm going to more just tell the story a little bit. I want to look at a few verses with it then. We could talk about Joseph. We could talk a lot about David, but David's trust in God, Moses, Elijah, Esther. This one is Daniel, and it's when he's about 80 years old, 85 years old, and older man. He had been a young man, and he had served the king a long time. Looks like he probably was kind of semi-retired, or maybe actually fairly retired. We don't know. He still lived there in Babylon, probably mid-80s, October 12th, 539 BC. And what did Daniel see? Who did he fear? Kind of interesting that very close, 323 BC, the palace that Belteshazzar or Belshazzar, Daniel's name was Belti, right? Belti. But this king, but the palace that he died in, Alexander the Great, almost 200 years later, died in the same palace. But there's something just about the greatness and the might of God and the days and the ordering of history. And like, there's something that's just so solid in that. This was, we know this story. This, like, it wasn't until, I don't know, was in the last 100 years that historians actually thought that this here passage was correct, because this king, they didn't know that this was actually in, let me go to the story here. Many years later, King Belshazzar gave a great feast of 1,000 of his nobles. Belshazzar was actually son of the appointed king, which lived at a different place. And if you could just observe from a distance, you see a king, you see celebrations, you see palace, you see luxury, feasting, a lot of stuff. And you see Daniel. Daniel had no fear of this king. And he was an older man. We know the handwriting on the wall. Daniel came in. Belshazzar largely profaned God. He went and got the goblets. He got the different things. God said enough, just enough. And it's kind of interesting. If you go on, next passage. Verse 17, Daniel answered the king, keep your gifts, give them to someone else. I can tell you what the writing means, but I don't need nothing from you. Like, I understand where I stand. I understand who I am. I understand who God is. I don't need your stuff. Your majesty, the Most High God, gave sovereignty, majesty, glory, and honor to all your predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar. He made him so great that people of all races and nations and languages trembled before him in fear. He killed those he wanted to kill. Verse 20, when his heart and mind were puffed up with arrogance, he was brought down from his royal throne and stripped of his glory. Verse 22, you are his successor, Belshazzar. You knew all this, yet you have not humbled yourself. You have proudly defied the Lord of heaven and had these cups from his temple brought before you, you and your nobles, your wives. You have not honored the God who gave you the breath of life and controls your destiny. So God has sent this hand to write this message. This is the message that was written. Verse 29, at Belshazzar's command, Daniel was dressed in purple robes. A gold chain was hung around his neck. He was proclaimed the third highest ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, the Babylonian king. Daniel didn't fear all of that, but Daniel had eyes. If you go to Daniel 9, it was the first year of the reign of Darius Mede, same year. You find out who Daniel feared and what Daniel saw, who Daniel looked to. You find Daniel just praying. You can scroll on up. Verse 17, Daniel 9. O our God, hear your servant's prayer. Listen as I plead. For your own sake, Lord, smile again on your desolate sanctuary. O my God, lean down and listen to me. Open your eyes and see. our despair. See how your city that bears your name, lies in ruin. We make this plea, not because we deserve help, because of your mercy. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, listen and act for your own sake. Do not delay. Oh my God, for your people and your city bear your name. I went on praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people, pleading with the Lord my God for Jerusalem, his holy mountain. As I were praying, Gabriel, whom I had seen in the earlier vision, came swiftly to me at the time of the evening service. He explained to me, Daniel, I have come here to give you insight and understanding. The moment you began praying, it goes on, and like it's just Daniel sees, and so I think there just is a cry for us to keep seeing God and to keep seeing his power so able, and living in that light with those eyes. May go to just Psalm 91 yet, 1 and 2, and we'll close there. He that dwelleth, and that's just in abiding, in the secret place of the Most High, shall abide, and it's a place to live under the shadow, the protection of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in him will I trust. And it's kind of interesting, there's 4 names listed in those 4 verses, 4 names of God, and we sometimes go past it. Most High is the Hebrew word Elyon, supreme monarch, the one who is elevated above all things, God's majestic, sovereign preeminence. But it's El Elyon, the Most High, shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Shaddai, Lord, is very relational. That it's a side of Lord and my God, and it's just Theos, God, all of God. But it's living, and we could circle back to the very first verse that we started at. Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. And in the ESV, let me hear in the morning of your steadfast love. But God's love and his power are like, so it's often a question of the eyes we see our circumstances with and the eyes that we see God with. And I think I'll just close there. I find a lot of rest in knowing the greatness of God, and when my eyes are right, there's a lot of peace in my world, and doesn't always change every part of the circumstance, but it changed how the circumstance looks. And maybe we'll just stand. Devon, you want to pray, dismiss us?
God, we just thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning, hear your word, see those that have come before us, big, great examples. To see you, Father. Lord, just, thank you for your many blessings. And Lord, we also just thank you for the food that you provided for us. Just bless it. Bless it. Prepared it. Guide and direct us throughout this. Just
Thank you.